Hello everyone, welcome back to Trek A Day. Today we're taking a look at Volume 2 of the Japanese release series Star Trek Best Episode Collection. And this volume has 3 episodes, one from TNG, one from DS9, and one from Star Trek Voyager. For TNG we get Captain's Holiday, a classic comedic Star Trek episode where Picard is forced to take a vacation on Risa. And he quickly finds himself embroiled in drama surrounding an artifact, time travel, a nefarious Ferengi, and a love interest in Vash, who comes back several times for TNG and one DS9. And it's always been one of my go-to, just kind of enjoyable episodes. I really love Captain's Holiday, just one of those kind of fun ones when I want to put on just a random episode of Star Trek that's enjoyable and comforting. Then we move on to DS9's Second Sight, which is a really good earlier episode of DS9. I always say those first 3 seasons of DS9 are hugely underrated, and while this isn't one of the absolute best of the best of that bunch, it's always been one that I've really enjoyed and found fascinating. When the anniversary of the death of Jennifer Sisko at the Battle of Wolf 359 comes around, Benjamin Sisko finds himself attracted to a mysterious woman who keeps disappearing. At the same time, the station is being visited by a genius terraforming scientist and legendary egomaniac who is hilariously portrayed, and he is on a mission really hell-bent to successfully complete his ultimate creation, to bring life to a star, to create a new star, something beyond terraforming, something that's his ultimate achievement that he can put in what's going to be his 10th volume of his autobiography. And it's all very fascinating, and things become even more interesting when they're invited to dinner, and Sisko finds that the scientist's wife looks exactly like this mysterious woman who keeps disappearing, and you get a little bit of the mystery of what is going on, and all turns out to be a very fascinating episode. Then we have Resolutions from Star Trek Voyager, which is a fantastic episode that is definitely a fan favorite of people who like the idea, shippers of the Janeway-Chakotay relationship. This is the Chakotay builds Janeway a bathtub episode, where our captain and commander are affected by a mysterious disease through an insect bite that they are unable to come up with a cure, but for some reason on this planet where they contracted the disease, they can live their lives largely unaffected, and while spending about a month in orbit, Voyager comes to the conclusion that they're currently unable to find a solution, and Janeway makes the decision to put Tuvok in command and send them on their way, leaving them behind, fully stocked with not only everything they need for survival, but the tools to possibly eventually find a cure if this is something that's going to take years and years and years. Instead of having the entire crew held back from their journey home, maybe they can at least, find a cure, and they do have a shuttle, and probably going to be left behind forever, but they can at least survive, and eventually everything is resolved with a cure from the Vidians. But the most interesting part of the episode is really the relationship between Catherine and Chakotay on this planet, and seeing that evolve over time as they slowly come to accept their new lives here. More Chakotay at first, as he tries to make it more of a home in case it does become their permanent home, and Catherine's a little more reticent to accept that fate and is really focused heavily on trying to find a cure. And seeing that build, and really this is the pinnacle of what was going on in those first few seasons of Voyager in particular. I mean, throughout the whole thing really till season 7, but especially those first 3 or 4 seasons, the relationship, it was so strong, and the romantic element as well with these two, that it's something that I always felt like it was kind of a repeat, but in a very, very different scenario, with the too long unrequited love on screen of Picard and Crusher in TNG. But here, this is just done so well, and both actors are given an incredible situation to really delve into the characters and breathe life into them, especially with Chakotay, how he was handled in later seasons. This is such a great example of what can be done with that character when the two of them working off each other and having such great chemistry. And this is beautiful, but it also highlights the one kind of really big issue with Voyager, with being so episodic in its structure, but being set up, like constantly setting up storylines that really work better in something that's a little more serialized, but being episodic. It was kind of a weird situation with Voyager, where we constantly set up these storylines that really should have continuing influence, but it's very episodic, so it has to be very minimized. And I always wanted, after this episode, to have them spend a lot more time than they did dealing with the difficulties of redefining their relationship when they get back to Voyager and have that professional separation. It's delved into a little bit, but very kind of surface level in episodes after here. It's really not quite handled with as much care and detail as it should have been, particularly after this episode. I mean, they were basically a married couple by the end of this episode, really fitting into their lives here and really kind of finally accepting their new life together when suddenly it's ripped away and they go back to being command Voyager. But overall, just an episode that I've always loved, and just wish that the ramifications of the events of this episode had a little bit more of a lasting impact. So a really good set. I really like this 3-episode collection. 3 very different episodes, and it's just fun. You have an advertisement for the TOS releases in Japanese. But yeah, this is, I think, just a great, fun collection of Star Trek.